we had a conversation about how this show was different from Thick of It, because the Thick of It is about, you know, these ministers in Parliament.
One more question for me before I toss it out to the audience and have you guys ask a few. You know, that said, you're also someone who's got, you know, some pretty passionate, whether it's political, environmental issues close to your heart. Do you use social media as a place there, or is that where you kind of draw a line and maybe not go there?
I have used it for environmental causes, and I'm a part of. As a matter of fact, I was here at this very lovely hotel here in Banff a couple of years ago for the Waterkeepers Alliance and Bobby Kennedy, and yay! But I definitely do, because that's a part of my life, and social media can certainly raise awareness to the issues that I'm passionate about, and so yeah, I do. Cool. Yeah, cool.
All right. All right, raise your hands and we'll get a mic to you. Why don't we start with the mayor of Banff?
Oh, hey, mayor, I tweeted at you today. Nobody ever had a mayor tweet at me.
And thank you for the tweet back. That was very fun. That's my new hobby.
Yes.
But thank you for mentioning the Waterkeepers. That's a great event. It continues to happen here. But really, I just wanted the mic as before to welcome you. To thank you very, very much for coming to our community. We appreciate it. I'm a huge fan, so really delighted to be here this afternoon. And if you could, maybe not now, but I'd like to learn the political thumb thing. Because,
You're doing it.
Yeah, okay, good. Because I may need that.
Yeah, you may need it.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you.
There's a gentleman over there. Front row.
Hi.
Hi.
So Steve Carell always talked about how he wouldn't watch the Ricky Gervais performances in The Office because he doesn't want to mimic that.
Yeah.
And one of the things I was really excited about when you announced Veep was I'm a huge Armando Iannucci fan.
Yeah.
Thick of It's unbelievable. In the Loop incredible. But what was surprising to me was how wonderfully unique Veep is in relation to those others. I mean, the cadences are the same. Did you avoid watching The Thick of It or In the Loop to make sure that you weren't sort of mimicking some of the characteristics of those? I mean, Peter Capaldi's character, Malcolm Tucker, one of the best I think ever written.
Yeah.
But I would imagine that it would get frightening that you might end up in that place, and it's so unique. Did you and Armando talk about how you were going to avoid being like that?
Well, let's see. I actually have seen a few episodes of The Thick of It, but I didn't watch them back to back, and I had seen In the Loop prior to meeting Arm. So I was familiar with his voice, his writing style, his directing style. It was we had a conversation about how this show was different from Thick of It, because The Thick of It is about, you know, these ministers in Parliament. It doesn't have the same, it's not the same, yes, exactly, gravitas. But it's also not, it's a different context, our show. The West Wing has a loftier thing to it, even though within the West Wing there is no loftiness necessarily. You know, it doesn't, there aren't rooms like this, they're like this, and filing cardboard filing cabinets stuck against the wall, and trash Frito bags over there. I mean, it is really, really tiny. But the notion that, you know, Secret Service and a motorcade and the pomp of the office had to be in place, which it really isn't on The Thick of It. Furthermore, yeah, I mean, I know it is important for me not to, you know, I had to sort of get into my own head about this part. So to watch other people and other women in these various shows and movies, you know, I didn't want to do it too much and think about it too much, because I really had to create this lady from scratch, you know, for myself. Yeah.
On the plane, we kept a lot of people up around me who were trying to sleep.
Oh dear.
But one of the things I found really fascinating and also very funny, and you touched on earlier about the relationship with your son who left home, is that now Julia can jump in to be vice vice president, but you have this relationship with your daughter on the show. And how difficult was it? Can you talk a little bit about that? How difficult was developing comedy with that, but you're a mother in real life as well?
Well, yeah, because I'm really a horrible bitch to our my daughter Catherine. But but I don't mean to be. And it's just that it's hard to find common ground with her at this moment in the telling of the story. And it's interesting because her relationship with her daughter she does love her daughter very much, but she is worried her daughter isn't a certain way. And I can, I can understand that from a sort of in a core kind of way as a mother, we all have worries about our children, but she's just very inflexible as to the way her daughter should be. And I think that's really funny. I mean, I think it's a great area for making jokes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Also in the back.
Hi there.
Hello.
Big fan. I'm glad you're here. I'm wondering if you could tell us about two experiences of yours. One working with Woody Allen, and the other the reunion on Curb.
Yes. Okay, so we have like another hour and a half, right? Let's see, the Woody Allen thing. Well, I worked with him twice. Once was Hannah and Her Sisters. I had a very, very minor part, maybe one line or two. And then later on Deconstructing Harry. And that experience was extraordinary because Hannah Sisters was in the 80s. I don't remember what year, but anyway. And I got this call that would I be in the, I didn't audition, but Juliet Taylor called, would I do it? Oh my God, of course. I was on SNL, and so I thought, how can I, of course I'm going to do it, and this is unbelievable, I'm in a Woody Allen movie, and oh my God. So off I go to do this thing, and it was a part of the movie where he's running like a Saturday Night Live kind of improv sketch late night show. And he's an executive producer of it. And the story at this moment of the movie is that he is hearing a ringing and he thinks that maybe he has a brain tumor. And so we're in in his office, and he's playing this part, he's also directing the film. And so the line is he has to say, wait a minute, stop, does anybody hear that? So, and as he says that, I'm supposed to cross the frame and go to the other side or something. I can't remember. That was the blocking. So, so we begin and roll camera, actions, blah, blah. He goes, wait a minute, stop. And I stop. And he goes, no, that's a line. I go, oh my God, Jesus. I'm sorry. Because he's the director, right? And so that's why you need to understand that I am, it's not I'm some fancy actress that's been hired for this, okay? I'm like, And so then we go back to one to start again and roll camera, action, sound, speed, blah, blah, blah. Okay, and he goes, wait a minute, stop. And I go, yeah. I did it again. And it was, I'm laughing about it now, but you need to know that I was mortified, because why wouldn't I have been mortified? Who wouldn't be mortified in those circumstances? And then we had to go back and do it a third time, and then he made some sort of joke at my expense, like, I hope we can get through it. I can't remember what he said. I blocked that part of it out. Everybody laughed. I pretended to laugh along with him, but I was dying on the inside. So that was my first experience with Woody Allen. So years later, many years later, in fact, it was, I think, probably 1996, yes, because my son was born the following year, right? So I get a call, Woody Allen is sending you material and for you to do this movie. And again, this is how it seems to happen with this guy. He's just sort of, all of a sudden he's there, you hear from him. So, oh my God. And so these pages were sent to me. There were about 20 pages of material. And I remember very vividly, oh my God, my husband saying to me, well, what do you think? Are you going to do it? And I hadn't read the pages yet. And I said, yeah, of course I'm going to do it. I mean, unless, you know, I've got to blow him or something. And so, scene deconstructing Mary, but there's this huge, there's a blowjob scene. And that was my claim to fame in that film. And so, I think it was his way of getting back at me for the first I can't wait to see what the next movie is. And then what was the other question you asked? Geez, I forgot. Curb. Oh yeah, Curb. Oh, the reunion on Curb was surreal because we did it on the same stage, and that we shot Seinfeld. We brought the sets back. We brought a vast number of the crew back. And the sets were back, but in a way so that, like, for instance, the kitchen cabinets and counters were more contemporary, and so he had redone his kitchen. So, but it was all the same, and yet it wasn't, of course, because we were doing, you know, a show within a show within a show, and it was sort of the ideal way of bringing everyone together, I think, but it was bizarre at the same time, you know. It's like going back. It was like going back in time. You know, going back, you have all this knowledge, and you're going back in time with knowing what you know and you didn't know then, and all this stuff. It's bizarre. So, but ultimately a very happy experience and very emotional too. Yeah.
Got some questions up front over here.
Everybody's so relaxed here. You know? It's Banff is incredible. Even at the airport today, the guy says to me as I'm handing my thing, he goes, you'll need to be off your cell phone next time you're here.
It's true. That's because we're very polite. We're very Canadians. So I don't know. Yeah, anyway, that's how to tell a Canadian from an American. We're polite. We say please and thank you.
I hear that.
Anyway, Ms. Dreyfus, I'm a huge, huge fan.
Thank you.
And I understand that you are an environmentalist, and I'm from an environmental publication, and since television is in everybody's living room,
yeah,
I don't think that everybody needs to hit environmentalism on the head, because that's not good entertainment. That's what television is about. But have you seen in your career any nod to sustainability, even on Veep, for example, like recycling, or you're using too much water to brush your teeth, like in a dialogue with your daughter or something like that? Is there any of that you're aware of?
Well, sure. I mean, in the pilot, the first episode of Veep, there's Selena's on her first sort of agenda is to green up all the federal buildings in D.C. It does not go well, by the way, and she ultimately folds to the oil lobby. But it's brought up. It's a part of the dialogue. Yeah, exactly.
I have the mic here.
Oh.
Hi.
Hey.
Are audience members allowed to ask you to do the Elaine dance?
No. They're allowed to ask me. Yes.
Next question.
Hi, I didn't actually think that sitting here was going to be so surreal, because I'm sitting here watching you, and I realized that, you know, you were part of my first cast of Saturday Night Live. So I'm sitting
really?
yes.
I apologize for
that. No.
Yeah,
I understand that. But what I'm wondering is, you've been part of at least 4 of these shows I really like that were very iconic to me. At least 2 of them I think are going to go down in the, you know, the whole pantheon of television. And I'm just wondering, in terms of looking back on that long career, each of those experiences, Saturday Night Live, Christine, Seinfeld, Veep, what are the 4, if you can think of it, are there 4 things that you took from each one of those working experiences that you think, you know, that was the lesson I've learned from this, or maybe a better performer, or a better writer, or a better...
well, I'll tell you, when I came off of Saturday Night Live, which was a fraught time when I was on it, and I'm glad you enjoyed it, but it was rough. It was rough for me as a woman, and it was rough for me because I was crazy young and crazy inexperienced and naive. So what I learned after having done that show for 3 years was that, and it's so basic and so Pollyanna-ish, but I really came away from that thinking, you know what, I'm not going to do anything else unless it's really fun. Because it's zapped the fun out of me during that show when I did it. And prior to that, I had been working in Chicago and doing theater with Second City and Practical Theater Company, and adoring it. It was really fun. And so I missed that tremendously, and I think it informed my performance. So actually, I don't think it, I know it. So that was a very basic lesson that I have now applied going forward. And then, of course, as you get older and you get more experience, you hopefully get better. And I think that I know much more now about performing and being an actress and being a producer than I did, 15, 20 years ago. When God, is that when Seinfeld was that? Yes. Isn't that incredible? What the hell? 89. Wow. Yeah, that's a long time ago. But I know a lot more now about that, which is probably why I don't like watching that stuff, because I can see certain things that I'm doing that I don't love, that I wish I could go back and redo. But so there's an experience, just experience doing it and doing it and doing it. And you just, hopefully, with any luck, will keep getting better at it. Yeah. Yes, Jen.
Hi. Just want to say I love your performance in Veep. So I wonder if there are any real-life politician, female or male, come up and talk to you about the show, and did any of them give you some of their screw-ups, or some other politicians' screw-ups?
Oh yes, I've spoken to many politicians, and it was, it's so funny. Al Franken, Senator Al Franken from Minnesota, is a big fan of Veep, and of course I know him because we have the SNL connection. But I remember he called me after he'd seen I think the first episode, and he said the motorcade, every time they cut to a motorcade going, he laughs, and I thought, I don't think it's that funny, and he says, oh yeah, it's funny. I don't know, somehow because he's inside the Beltway, the idea of all this pomp and circumstance of a motorcade makes him howl laughing. But yeah, when I went to, last month I had the great pleasure and honor of going to the West Wing and having lunch with Vice President Joe Biden.
Wow.
And when I went in there, the first thing that happened was someone in his office introduced herself to me, and she said, I'm the Dan Egan of the office.
Oh.
Somebody else, some woman comes in and she says, I'm Sue, I'm Sue.
Oh.
She goes, no, I'm not, her name's Allison. But I mean, in other words, they were identifying with characters, which I thought was bizarre. Yeah, anyway, but it was a lot of fun, and I've met a lot of politicians who are particularly now that the first season is aired, because I think a lot of people were a little bit nervous, were we making fun of any one person or anything like that, and people now know that it's not a parody or making fun of a single person.
Middle?
I've always loved your physical comedy, and in Seinfeld, that cough that you would do when you were caught in a lie.
I forgot about that. Yeah.
And in Veep, I think it's the first time you actually say "fuck" in the show when you come out of your office and your whole body says it. So I'm just wondering who your inspiration is.
Who's my inspiration for my whole body?
Your inspiration for your physical comedy. Where did you get that?
Physical comedy.
I just like it. I'm a huge fan of Buster Keaton, and I think anytime you can get, I mean, it's one thing you've got a joke on a page, that's fabulous, but if you can get a joke physically, that's even more delicious, to be honest with you. And I love making a fool of myself as long as I'm in control of it. And so I'll try to find it whenever I can, to be honest. Probably I do it too much, I think. But I don't know, it's just so basic, you know? I mean, there's something so funny, even about seeing somebody cross a doorway and then back, you know? You can make so many jokes with those parameters, and I don't know why, but it really strikes a chord and scratches a deep itch for me. And I think it brings to bear a lot more depth of funny to anything that's written. That's all.
I have a quick question.
Sure.
There's a lot of great one-liners and insults in Veep, and do you get to kind of use it as an outlet for things you wish you could say to people? Like, a lot of times I think I'd love to say, go fuck yourself, but you can't say that. But on the show, it seems like such an outlet.
Oh yeah, it's fabulous. I mean, it's so fun to be able to, well, particularly for me, to play somebody whose ego is so completely out of control and not at all in check. And that is a great fantasy to just sort of, you know, if something goes wrong, it's not my fault, it's the people around me. And it's a fun place to play because, you know, obviously life doesn't work like that. And the same is true for letting people have it. But there's also a great deal of restraint at the same time, and that's also fun to play against all odds. You know, when she goes on Meet the Press or whatever it has to be. But it's great fun to have an arsenal of language available to you. That's a fantasy, and because speaking for myself, whenever I get angry or upset, I can't even find. I can't string 3 words together. I'm so stymied by my frustration. But that's not the case for Selena, for the most part.
We should also note that while in Canada, go fuck yourself is forbidden, in LA, that's like saying hello.
Yeah.
Time for one more question. Right here, over there.
You mentioned earlier that sometimes comedy can be hard as a woman because it is kind of a lot of men in comedy.
Yeah.
But obviously you have done an incredible job of holding your own, and you're one of my favorite comedic actors.
Thank you.
And I was just wondering if you could, looking forward, who are some female comedians and comedic actors that you think are, you know, ones to watch out for and that you're a fan of?
Oh, there's so many of them right now. I'm so happy to report. I mean, it seems as if the landscape has changed. You know, Amy Poehler is a good friend of mine, and Kristen Wiig, and the wonderful actress whose name I can't remember from Parks. And I mean, there are a ton of them out there. Melissa McCarthy. I think there are so many very fine female actresses who are very capable of doing comedy. Jane Lynch. I mean, there's just tons of them. They've always been there, but I think there's now more of an outlet for these ladies, and there seems to be a market for it too, which will create more outlets. I'm thrilled about that. I recently on Veep got to work with this amazing actress named Sally Phillips from the UK, who's a great comedian, and I don't know, it just made me think of her. I love her so much. But anyway, she's hilarious. There are tons of them, tons.
That's a great note to end on. How about a hand for Julie?